Dun, 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 dun. Hey, wouldn't you know, I forgot something. Hold on. Do-wah, the radio star. Do-wah, the radio star. Do-wah. Should I make you wait even longer? Yeah, taking care of this window over here. Man, it won't stay. Do-wah, the radio star. Do-wah, video killed the radio star. Alright, sorry about that. Trying to block a little bit of the sound escaping. Yeah, I'm always self-conscious. My neighbors think, what the hell is he doing there? He only emerges to go to work. Oh no, I'm not that bad. Used to see me emerge to go ride my skateboard too. Oh, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, so I've been busy trying to put a lot of stuff away. Let me reset this. Oh, never mind, I'll just deal with it. Yeah, I've been dealing with putting a lot of stuff away, and one of the things that cleaning up a big mess that I've accumulated over the years. And one of the problems I have with this, or whenever I need to move or take care of stuff, I end up going through the stuff and stopping and going, oh wow, I haven't seen this in years. Oh, I forgot about this. Or so I came across this, you know, and I have a hard time throwing stuff away. But that is a gallery called Roots, and that's one of my photographs that that was being shown there. And I mean, it was no big deal. I mean, I didn't really, like I said before, I never really sold my photography. I only sold one piece. No, I sold 2 photographs. And it's surely not enough to make a living by. But this is a reflection of a woman's foot on a mirror, and then there's little plastic ants crawling towards the toes. But it's called a photogram, where a combination of basically you lay stuff on the right on the photo paper and then expose it to light. And I thought it looked kind of like a uterus, so I called it Alien Womb, and these represent, you know, the swimmers. The ants represent the swimmers. Yeah, I was young. I thought I was really deep. Deep and creative. Yeah, there's more I could tell you. I don't know whether to say. But anyway, yeah, it was kind of neat. I was all excited. And then the very next day I was leaving for Los Angeles to go see that Jewish girl that was I met on the train. And she invited me up there. And had a great time. Really, really good time. All right, so anyway, what did I do? All right, time to don the Fez. Greetings, fellow citizens. Oh, by the way, you notice I got a haircut. Yee-hee! Greetings, fellow citizens. This is Citizen Kong, and welcome to another Fez Night. Tonight's Fez Night shall be called License to Fez. Yeah, when I thought about that, I said, oh, that's really good. I must have already used that one before. And I looked, I did a search, and no, I hadn't used that one. License to Fez. That's one of the best ones, I think. Oh, look what else I found when I was going through my stuff. I found my, I don't know, is it politically correct to say Jew's harp? But that's what it was known as, a Jew's harp or a mouth harp. Very simple instrument. I think they say it originated in Africa. I don't know. I read that somewhere once. They're really good at breaking your front teeth out. You should pluck it inward. You're less likely to chip a tooth. But when I first started, I used to pluck it outward, and I did chip a tooth. But I kind of like the sound when you pluck outward. That's about it. You just make... You can't really play a tune with it. Not that I know, unless there's some mouth harp experts out there that can give me a tip or two. I thought I'd finally break out the wonderful mug that Boba McGraw sent me, a.k.a. Thomas. It's the Doctor Who mug. It's got the picture that's on the TARDIS. And I will have to reset that. My screensaver popped on. Hold on. I have to go into my settings here. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, once again. This is why Fez Night's so long, because I just waste time. I waste time doing stuff like this. All right, let's see. Where's the screensaver? Let me reset that. I'll set it for 1 hour, just in case, right? Okay, so where was I? Yeah, I found the Jew harp. And okay, the TARDIS mug. And then on the other side, it had me a little bit mystified, so I Googled it. It says St. John Ambulance. And so I looked that up, and it said something about, on the original, the old Doctor Who, they featured that on the outside of the TARDIS too, and I guess it has something to do with that the London Bobbies or the English police were also trained in first aid or something, so they qualified for this St. Thomas ambulance service on there. And the new Doctor Who, they brought it back and put it on the TARDIS. Very, very cool. And then on the very inside of the mug, it says, yeah, and I put it away and I didn't break it out because I thought, oh, geez, I'll break it. But you know what? It might as well be enjoyed. And it says time and relative dimension in space, which sounds like gobbledygook, but I guess it has something to do with time travel. Which makes me think of something else. I hope I don't forget that point. But I want to thank all those people that have sent me stuff in the past. I mean, Monk and Stan have sent me, I'm sure Stan was involved, but sent me several packages over the years. And one time, Nigel Cromwell, Jeff Davis, sent me this Russian military watch. It's a Russian pilot's watch. It's got a picture of a jet aircraft on it. And I never really thanked Jeff in a video, because at the time I thought it was one of those things like, oh, if people know what Jeff sent me a watch, everybody will want one, or something like that. Whatever. Everybody write to Jeff and ask for a free watch. Oh yeah, I just cracked myself up. Oh, it is okay. I'm going to talk about this interesting discussion I got into with Monk over the phone. And Monk and I'll tell you, he gets me wound up, man. And I get like in my most intense kind of, depending on what we talk about, normally we don't, but in some cases we were talking, and he remembered better than I did, but the other time we had a heavy discussion was on the consensus, the so-called consensus in science, and I was arguing that basically they're a group of the whole scientific community will reach a consensus, and at least for the time being, that's kind of what we have to go for, because we're not going to listen to that one fringe scientist and put all our chips on him. We're going to go with the consensus. And I know it's not a perfect system, and I think he was taking the opposite tack, that the consensus doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, that it's factual, and I would have to agree with him on that. But I said, in the end, for argument's sake, I go with the consensus, at least as far as like an issue like climate change. If what the consensus says is correct, and I'm willing to place my bets on the consensus, is we better friggin' do something about it. And then the people that claim it's some kind of conspiracy, or they're a bunch of eggheads that don't know what they're talking about. I kind of like it when my hair's longer, but oh well. This thing about, you know that I can see myself, and I'm basically talking to myself in the monitor. Yeah. Yeah, the consensus says we should do something, and I don't think it's we should probably listen to them. It's not when they don't. What's the agenda? They try to act like it's some major conspiracy or something, and I don't see how it can be profitable for maybe some person that invests in windmills or something. I don't know. It could be profitable, like there's some kind of like big George Soros, there's some big some big liberal conspiracy. But the scientific consensus says there is a problem, that man contributes to climate change, and we'll have to take action very soon, if it's not already too late. And speaking of people sending me stuff, why did I go off on that tangent? Well, I want to say thanks to the people that have sent me stuff in the past, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. But yeah, Thomas, aka Bobo McGraw, thank you, and Monk and Stan, thanks a lot. I get a lot of stuff from you guys. And Angie has sent me something, and so did Bonnie. So Bonnie on more than one occasion too. So I just wanted to say thanks again. And I feel obligated. I'm in no position to return the favor, but I'm hoping someday I will. Getting back to Doctor Who and the discussion with Monk. I hope I'm not boring you all, but so Monk mentioned that in 2 different episodes, the history of Doctor Who, they mentioned the age of Doctor Who, and I forgot what he said. 700 years, 400 years, one of those two. And there's kind of a discrepancy. One installment or episode, they say he's this old, and another one. And I just off the cuff said, well, he's a time traveler, so his age is irrelevant. And it sparked into a really heated debate. And one thing to credit Monk is that neither one of us go away angry. We just doggedly stick to our position. And in fact, I don't know why I was sticking to my position so much, because who cares really when it comes to, in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? But I was saying, since he's a time traveler, it's essentially the standard is Earth time. A year is now, or whatever planet Doctor Who is from, or whatever. But I would just have to say, for us Earthlings, a year means one trip around the sun. And even if you're traveling at the speed of light, and as we know, as we approach the speed of light, time aboard for that person approaching the speed of light slows down in comparison to the way it is on Earth. And I was arguing, let's say that person was born in 1961, and they get on a spaceship, and 100 years passes by on Earth, and I use 1961 because I was born then, so I'm 50. And so 100 years pass by. I say, when I return, I'm 150 years old, because 150 years has passed by on Earth. But Monk was taking the idea that it's biological time. Of course, if time had slowed down for me, let's say I was only gone, for me it seemed like a year. So biologically, I would be 51 years old. But it's kind of difficult. I say there's another factor that I didn't bring up. Biologically, we all age differently. Ever taken one of those tests where it said like your biological age or whatever? Like if you smoke, subtract this amount of time. If you shoot heroin, subtract this amount of time. If you are a serial killer. I'm making up questions. But anyway, so that's what the whole debate was. And we went into it must have lasted, I talked to him for hours, but I think the debate itself lasted for about an hour. Seemed like an hour. Anyway, anybody want to put some input in there? I don't feel that strongly about it now. It's just that I make a statement, and then somebody challenges me, and my instinct is to dig in my heels, and then later look back and go, Yeah, well, maybe I was kind of talking out my ass. Hey, I'm not ashamed to admit it. What else? I want to, for John Cox, you change your channel so many times. I don't know. I can't remember. It's something Grizzly Terrorson or something like that. He said, make sure your viewers know about Jeremy Clarkson. So I'm going to say, hey, everybody. Jeremy Clarkson, he's a guy that does a program in the UK called Top Gear. And they have clips of it on YouTube. And it is kind of entertaining, especially if you love cars. And I wouldn't consider myself a gearhead or a motorhead, but I do like cars, but particularly European cars from the 60s and earlier, especially English or British cars from the 60s and earlier. Anyway, it's an entertaining program. And not that I don't mind seeing something about a new Porsche or, you know, the latest Ferrari or something like that. Or, you know, or at least what he thinks of an American car. There was an interesting one I saw where he was talking something about one of the worst American cars or the worst era in American cars. And that's around the time Chrysler built the K car. Anybody remember that? I'm trying to remember, there was that other crappy Ford that was trying to look like the current Cadillac. The commercial is that the woman gets a ticket driving this car, and I can't remember. My aunt drove one, and it was a piece of crap. But the advertisement was she got a ticket from the cop, and then she looked at the ticket, and the cop wrote down Cadillac instead of that Ford whatever she had. That's bad. That's bad driving something that's trying to mimic something else. I don't think that's an advertising point at all, you know. Anyway, Jeremy Clarkson said something pretty controversial. I guess it was on some morning talk show. And he was talking about the Occupy protesters. This is one thing the conservative right in the media constantly leaves out. They talk about the American Occupy Wall Street people, call them like scumbags, or there's some fringe movement or something like that. They leave out the part that this is happening all over the world. You know, in Western countries, you know, it's happening all over the place. In Spain, in the UK, and Jeremy Clarkson was talking about the protesters in England, the United Kingdom. And he said something about that they all should be shot in front of their families or something like that. You know, and later, you know, people he was defending himself and said it was a joke, or people were saying they took it out of context. And I don't know, to me, my friend Kip, conservative guy, used to, I remember I used to get so upset with him when his joke was nuke them, just nuke them all. I'm like, shut up. You're an idiot. That's not even funny, you know. It's like a retard's reaction to anything, you know. Oh, I can't fix it. I don't understand it. I'll destroy it, you know. And apparently, you know, to nuke something is the ultimate. It's not just hitting it or bashing it, you know, or setting it on fire. Where you're going to nuke it. I encourage everybody watching to go, and I'll try to remember to put in the link to go to support the preservation of the chapel in the cemetery in the movie The Night of the Living Dead. Trisha Martin and Gore Martin and Trisha Martin are participating in trying to preserve that little bit of cinematic history, and apparently I saw something about George A. Romero weighed in on it. George A. Romero, why don't you just write a check and take care of it? Take care of the whole thing. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so subscribe to Ghoul's Tools, or at least drop by there and say hello. Okay, and Jackaluk is expecting a baby. Congratulations, her and her husband. They haven't been married that long, and they're expecting. And I wrote down some other weird stuff. When I was going through all my crap, one of the things that I stop and look at is, man, I used to write notes to myself. And usually it would be at work. I'd be welding or something, and my mind would wander, and I'd like, oh, and something at the time it seemed like, whoa, what a great idea, and I'd jot it down. And I was taking a art history class. What was it? Film. Yeah, I was taking a film class, and the instructor was really trippy. He was really radical, you know. And I liked him, but his politics were too radical for me. One of the things he espoused was an open border, you know, that our border with Mexico should completely open. People should be able to come and go as freely as they want. And as much as I like to consider myself pretty leftist, I'm not that far left. But I like the guy. And it's funny, for a film class, I used to get a lot of, like, you know, political speeches or whatever. And a lot of films we watched dealt with American. I can definitely remember 2 films. Well, one especially. One that dealt with American foreign policy, especially in South America or Latin countries. And that's the first time I ever became aware of that CIA school where they teach Latin Americans how to torture, which was new to me at the time. It seemed pretty wrong. I found this note that I wrote down, and one of the things he said is that so much of what's wrong with the world can be blamed on 2 things: prejudice and poverty. And I agreed with that, but I added a third. I said population. In fact, I'd probably put population, all right, maybe third. I was going to say put it at the top of the list, but I suppose even before the planet became too crowded, poverty and prejudice were issues then, even in like the Mayan society and stuff. But the other thing is, though, even though the planet wasn't too crowded, there were still issues with overpopulation. That's what scholars, I mean, when I was in elementary school and we were learning about the Aztecs and the Mayans, they'd say, oh, the Mayans, it's a big mystery. How did they build this great civilization? Then they just disappeared. Well, the consensus, here we go, among scholars is that they used up all their local resources. They grew too big, and they didn't have, you know, roads, or they didn't even really use the wheel, and they just basically chopped down all the trees locally. They couldn't go far away and bring more trees in, and they just sort of grew weak because they became overpopulated, and it allowed somebody else, some other tribe that they probably subjugated and killed or whatever and almost exterminated, for them to seek their revenge and wipe them out, you know. Which is kind of interesting. The Mayan people still exist, except they're all scattered, and they're nothing like they were at their peak of their civilization. Guess that's it. I forgot, I have problems with the channel names that use numbers, but it's Mia something. And she said that, she asked if there was going to be a Fez. And it's always nice when people ask if there's going to be a Fez. But please don't be nags. No, okay, it's always nice. It's even nice to be nagged. But she said something about useless knowledge, and I said I live for useless knowledge. And then she asked me if there was going to be a Fez. So yes, I'm posting a Fez. And one thing about these channels where the person never shows themselves or posts videos. You know, it's funny. It's like a thing that's been happening, and it's happened in the past, and it's sort of happened a little bit lately. So it makes me a little self-conscious. So then there'll be this new YouTuber, and by the name or the channel, that you assume she's female, and then you might become, not that I send PMs and like try to pick up on any of these. I don't. First of all, because you never know. There's this whole thing, and I tell you, it's the creepiest thing on the internet, where a guy pretends to be a chick to see if some guy will fall for it and send like PMs and go, hey, you know, do you like canoeing? I do. So excuse me, but sometimes I gotta like wonder, you know, like Mary Beth Israel, you know, and now Jeff isn't even. He just, you know what he puts on the channel? From the ovens of Auschwitz. Oh, man. You're bad. You're a bad man. Did I ever tell you about the story of when I had a Satanist roommate? Yeah, I met this guy through my friend Kip, who was really, really charming and dynamic. I mean, and he's kind of pushy, but he was a lot of fun. And he talked me in. Well, first of all, Kip brought him by. He said, "I hear you can use somebody where you work." And I said, "Yeah, probably." And he said, "Well, you want to put in a word for Mike?" And that was the guy's name. And I said, "Yeah, sure." So they ended up hiring him. And my boss and the other guys liked him. He's the kind of person that you meet and you tend to like him. You know, he's really good, winning personality. And then later he talked me into, he wanted to move out of the place he was staying. He was staying with his family and renting a room there. And he talked me into sharing an apartment. And like an idiot, I did. And it was kind of cool for about 2 months. There were problems though. He would, I shouldn't talk about the drug use. All right, I'll tell you. So we were high on crystal, okay? And this is a long time ago, early 20s. I didn't know any better. And the way it made me is, you know, you're up all night, but I would get really quiet because I wouldn't want to draw attention to myself. Well, this friggin' idiot, we lived in the upstairs apartment, it was 2 stories, started vacuuming the carpets. And that's the thing when people tweak. Some people, they love to clean. I'm not one of those people that likes to clean, but I would do other stuff, get really intense. And I don't like that feeling. I never had a problem with being addicted to it. The only reason I was doing it that night was because of him. I do fold to social pressure sometimes, pretty easy, especially then. And like I said, he was very persuasive. And I was like, "Oh, you idiot." And I'll never forget this girl who lived downstairs. There were 2 attractive girls. And when they moved in, it was like, "Oh yeah, you know, great. We got these 2 good-looking chicks to move downstairs. Let's, you know, hopefully we'll get to know them in the future. Maybe invite them up." Well, yeah, he ruined it. She comes knocking on the door. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll tell him to stop. I told him. You know, it's like, what are you doing? Friggin' idiot." And, you know, and the paranoia, you know. So, yeah, he was a self-proclaimed, not atheist, Satanist. And he talked about how when he was in the Marines, he hooked up with this other guy. And I've heard about this a lot in the Marines. There's Wiccans and, you know, and, or in the military in general. There's, not the Wiccans are bad or anything, I'm not saying that. But there are, you know, Aryan types, and, you know, the military is starting to accept almost anybody because we were fighting those wars. And so there's all kinds of oddballs and stuff, white supremacists, probably Black Panthers, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. The people that join in the military, and they tend to find each other, you know, and yeah, he was a self-proclaimed Satanist. He had a pet python, I think it was, or a boa constrictor. Yeah, it was a boa constrictor. Which the other thing is, red flag. Anybody that likes to keep snakes as a pet, in my personal opinion, that's a red flag. Not that I'm not afraid of snakes. I will pick one up, I'll hold it. I just don't see the attraction. They're creepy. Their eyes are like soulless, you know. There's nothing endearing about a snake at all. And I'd much rather have a dog or a cat, you know, than a snake. Hell, I'd rather even have a gerbil than a snake. Oh yeah, and the other thing is, of course, you have to feed them live mice and stuff. So I remember, like, he'd be like buying live mice, and he'd be like giggling, "Yeah, I'm gonna feed the snake. It's time for..." Oh, and the name of the snake was Ozzy. So, and Mike was also, you ever hear of Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins is some sort of like inspirational guru or something, and part of the shtick is that he gets you to firewalk, and you firewalk, and it's all like some, you know, you walk across hot coals, and he has like these big seminars and gets people lined up. It kind of reminds me of an evangelical meeting, except it's not about being a better person. It's about achieving power and moving up, and you know, people that aspire to become rich and stuff, they are big followers of Tony Robbins, I think, in my opinion. Mike actually lived in the Tony Robbins mansion at one point, and was a big follower of his. And Neuro-linguistic programming is one of those things they're into. I think it's called, they call it NLP. And it has to do with persuading people and winning them over by using these certain techniques. And one of the techniques is to sort of mimic, not obviously, but just very subtly, when you're meeting somebody, if they cross their legs a particular way, you cross your legs the same way. And and if you do it subtly, not like you're mocking them, but the person tends to become comfortable with you. And I think all that stuff is wrong. I would rather have people be themselves than try to manipulate other people. And Mike ended up like basically just leaving suddenly, sticking me for the rent, and a bunch of problems. And I think it's because he was a Tony Robbins disciple and a self-proclaimed Satanist, because the Anton LaVey, and I've talked about this before, philosophy is that if you're not strong, they view empathy and kindness as weakness. And basically you're the only one that matters. I'm the only one that matters. And if somebody if I can take advantage of somebody, it's not my fault, it's theirs. That's sort of the beginning, and that's the attitude he had. That was an adventure. I learned a thing or two. Yeah, some weird stuff happened. Yeah, one of his girlfriends was used to make. She worked in a massage parlor and would walk the street, and I would hear these stories. She'd come over and be like, "Yeah, this guy gave me a ride, and this happened and that happened." I'm like, "Oh, brother." I won't go into detail. All right, how long have I've talked for about half an hour. Any of you find this interesting? Was there anything in the local news that I should I be talking about? Not really. There's an election coming, and maybe I'll get more interested in talking politics, or maybe not. And Bobo McGraw mentioned that he misses the political debates, and yeah, I just don't have anybody that's worthy to spar with, because my opinion, it just comes down to there's nobody really worthy, because the last person I would spar with, it would just come down to name calling, And what was it? Oh, Gordon made an excellent video about conversation with an atheist or something, or discussion with an atheist. And in it, the person he was conversing with listed this thing. He probably Googled it and found it, but a thing about logical argument or debate. And then all the things that a person that cannot win the debate with logic, the things that they revert to, and the red herring, changing the subject, personal attacks, name calling. Those are the things that the person is losing, and those are the things that they resort to, And in face-to-face, it'll probably involve punching or raising one's voice or whatever. I remember one time I got this guy, he was so flustered, and he was bigger than me, and got him so angry and flustered that yeah, at the time. But I got out of it. Yeah. At the time, I was just so wound up. I go, I'm winning this argument. If he hits me, I totally won. That's what an idiot I am. Okay, I guess that's it. I've gone on long enough. I'm trying to think if there's anything in the news. People tell me these weird news stories, but I don't know whether I want to talk about it on Fez Night. But one was trippy. I guess it happened over in England. The way she told it, it was when I went to go get my hair cut. The gal cut my hair was, we have conversations. What's really funny, she asked me about YouTube. And I tell her stuff that happens on YouTube. She finds it fascinating. And then she said something that she saw, I think it was on Yahoo News or something. And I said, wow, I didn't hear about that. But some guy buried his fiancée in a cardboard box, buried her alive. And she managed to dig herself out. She clawed with her engagement ring, was able to tear the cardboard box and climb out. And yeah, at first he tasered her to get her in the box, and a friend of his helped him. And I said, whoa, what a story, And she survived, and I guess they were going to bring charges against that guy and the friend. His excuse was, she told me, and maybe if you read the story there's something else, but one of the explanations was he was trying to teach her survival skills. Any of you remember that movie Diner? This made me think of that, where the guy was going to marry some girl, but the condition was is she had to pass a baseball quiz, and basically he was looking for an excuse not to marry her, and she's like studying and studying, and and she's going to take this quiz about baseball or something, and if she passed the quiz, he was going to marry her, and it sort of reminded me of that because here's this guy, he's going to marry this woman, and but I need to know she has survival skills first, and apparently she passed the test. I think if he really intended to kill her, he would have buried her a lot deeper. I mean, really, and then killed her, then buried her, So there might be something to his story, but that's completely, the guy's a complete nutter. That was something I was reading in the paper. I thought this was interesting, getting back a little bit to climate change. Not that I give a lot of chops to evangelical Christians. I was sort of raised around that and sort of been exposed to it. And I'm not saying anytime that they're bad people, and I wouldn't call them stupid. I just think that people that have a strong faith in things that are unseen or are not tangible is kind of an interesting thing. And I think that it's genetic. I think it is. Just like, a certain type of, tendency, that you could be. I've heard of people having strong faith that were raised atheists who later, found God. And so I don't think it has to do with nurture. I think it's a nature kind of thing. And so to belittle somebody for having faith, I don't think is a faith in something that's not tangible. I don't think is fair myself. Maybe because I'm a little that way. No, I'm not an idiot. But anyway, climate change. Here in the United States, in the evangelical Christian thing, in the churches, the white Christian family values type movement, they all consider climate change, what the scientists are telling us, a hoax. And they also tend to be creationists and, blah, blah, blah. And so basically, they don't believe in science. Not real science. They don't believe in the scientific consensus of the day. And there's a woman who's a climatologist who also happens to be evangelical, an evangelical Christian. And there was a story about her in Saturday's paper, how she goes and preaches to these congregations and uses her belief system to say, look, I'm one of you, but I'm also a scientist, and I'm going to explain this to you. Now, thankfully, she doesn't go into creationism, and I don't know whether she is or not. They didn't say that. But at least as far as science and climate, she's on board. And one of the things that she uses is the biblical notion of that man, is the steward of the earth, and planet Earth is a gift from God. And I've always said that, to people that, it's funny, in the white Christian church, a lot of the attitude is that, God gave us the earth, it's there for us to exploit, and God's going to return, Jesus is going to return, and the planet's going to be destroyed anyway, so why not just use up all the oil as fast as we can, Jesus wants us to drive an SUV, and and pollute the air and all that, and government regulation is evil, and it's socialism and communism and blah blah blah. So basically, yeah, maybe those people are idiots. But she points out to him, if somebody gives you something and you're put in charge, that the onus is on you to take care of it, not abuse it. If your father gave you a nice gold watch, you just don't, hey, it's mine, psh, step on it, throw it in the street or something. You take care of it, you cherish it, out of respect. Anyway. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat, and I would like it. I would like to see environmental and social civil rights issues should, the civil rights movement, hell, with the Civil War, it started in the pulpit, the whole freeing the slaves thing. That's especially why Jeff hates it, because it's a Christian thing. Let them people go. Jeff really doesn't hate Lincoln. So, what was I saying? Boy, I'm really babbling on, aren't I? I was about ready to wind it up, wasn't I? Oh, I was going to say the church, and in the 60s, the civil rights movement came out of the church. Dr. Martin Luther King was a reverend. And what happened to that, in our Christian churches? Getting active in social issues, besides the abortion thing. Yeah, they're pretty active in that. I made a video about abortion a long time ago, and boy, I regretted it. But I do believe in women's right to choose, and but it's an awful thing. I'm glad I've never been put in that. I'm glad I've never been in that situation where somebody I was with was considering an abortion or going through an abortion. But I still believe in the right to choose. Anyway, all right. Hey everybody, have a great week. Thank you for watching License to Fez. Cheers.